Welcome to Ice Cream, You Meme, the only horror meme internet podcast ever. And JD, we were talking a little bit about some show and tell.
Yes.
Beforehand.
Show me now.
I wanted to show you a caricature that me and the EP got at the fair. And let's see.
I need it. Hold on, let me computer enhance. I love it.
Can you see?
I love this.
I feel like I look like a stereotype. Like I look like something I can't make jokes about. Really? I don't. Not great, but
they really. I feel like these like caricature artists. They're really good at like honing in like what you're most afraid about. Like the John Mulaney thing. Where it's like you cross the street when you see a bunch of middle schoafers because
a bunch of teenagers.
Like, you've got wide hips, and you're like, please.
Yeah, they know exactly what you're insecure about.
Oh my god, I'm afraid of getting anyone done because I'm just like, what are you gonna get me now? I have been. Listen, I was on Tumblr. I have been called many Asian slurs despite being Filipino.
Sure, yeah.
Getting the wrong ones. At least get it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I mean, how do y'all feel about it? I love it.
I was very amused by it. I think via it was her idea because she'd never gotten one done. I'd never got one done either, but I never really wanted to get one done because I was just like, you're gonna be mean. I'm gonna feel bad. Sure. But yeah, I think it was fun. We talked to the guy. It was an interesting like glimpse at like the kind of carny lifestyle. He didn't like being called a carny. But if you travel with a carnival, you're kind of a carny. I think that's you
get the name.
It's fine. We got like an interesting glimpse at like his lifestyle of like traveling around the country, like making caricatures of people. Like, it's not like it was. So that was interesting, and he was a nice enough guy. But I think one is probably enough. I don't think you need.
What do you mean you don't
more
want
than one
a collection of caricature artists?
Just turn my whole wall into just caricatures
like, okay, so what's like the common thing that they're seeing? What? What?
I want my house to look like one of those restaurants where celebrities eat, but it's only
this is where I eat.
This is where I eat. I'm here. Look at this funny caricature of me.
Well, since you've done your show and tell, I'd like to ruin the vibe and ruin everybody's vibe by presenting a genius moment that I've just committed to, which is I made the mistake of forgetting that I had a thing in the freezer, and it was going to be my bit for the day. So I did this 15 minutes ago. I speed melted it by putting it in a cup of hot water. Oh. I know it's
okay. All right. I was worried you were going to say microwave. And I was like,
I thought about it. I was like, well,
hot water's the right call.
Okay.
Here we have the Grimace.
But let me tell you, I made it better because the original flavor of it is just like a vanilla with like a hint of a berry. But I decided my stomach's already going to be ruined by the pizza rolls that I'm having right now. And the Grimace shake. Let me ruin it further by adding like a fourth of a cup of like coffee into it and then blending it. So now it's much better. Okay. You're welcome, McDonald's.
It's a Grimace birthday latte.
When you go to McDonald's, if in the future when this is no longer around, next year for Grimace's birthday, you need to get yourself the Grimace shake, take out half of it, drink it if you want, and then get yourself like a latte, a frozen thing because you don't want to melt it, and then get in there, open that shit up, pour it in there, and shake it around. It is no longer purple; it is gray.
It sounds like very purple
right now. So I think I made. Is there a gray character in McDonald's?
Mayor McCheese is I think brown because he's a hamburger. But McDonald's meat, I think, can kind of go gray. Okay, so fairly frequently. So he's gray passing.
Next McDonald's birthday. This is too sweet.
You don't look happy. That was not way
too sweet.
You spent all this time. You're like, hey, listen, this is what you got to do, and you took a sip. You're like, this tastes like shit.
Too sweet. No, like what you can do is like add some more. Okay, so this is gonna be a ratio. Coffee. It's gonna be like this much coffee, this much of the Grimace shake, and like this much water because it's blended up. So the whipped cream is in there.
It's in there. Yeah.
It's.
Are you tasting the berry still? Are you tasting the hint of berry?
It's truly a confusing flavor. No, seriously, when I first got the Grimace shake, I already was like, what flavor is this? And then I had to look it up, and people were saying like it's a vanilla with like a hint of a berry, and I'm like, no, it's like LaCroix rules, where it's like you're drinking something and someone whispers the flavor of it to you, and you're like, yes. This one is like
right. Now I understand.
Cereal, like if you had a like Trix cereal and then you drank the milk from there,
sure,
that's what it tastes like. It's not.
Oh, it's like a Frankenberry,
like the aftertaste of a berry. Okay. So right now it's like I had vanilla. Aftertaste of a berry, and then right now my mouth feels like I also had a coffee at the same time. So it's a weird time.
It's not unappealing though. That sounds like pretty decent. I feel like huge missed opportunity to go for like taro or ube
that I was
on like purple foods. I literally
was saying that. I was like, if they did like because I had a taro drink the morning of when we got this, and I was like, really truly a missed opportunity to get some new McDonald's flavors in there. But
America's not ready. The U.S., the country as a whole would fall apart.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, if they dropped like an ube or taro kind of thing, it'll be like, all these Asian flavors.
Yeah, Asian flavors. What happened to good old American flavors?
Berry.
Generic
vanilla.
Berry.
Like, what are you doing, dog?
Blue raspberry. Traditional American flavors.
It's purple. I was like, okay, grape.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, God. Grape.
A grape.
Grape would be fucked up.
You never think about that?
You know, I have a fun fact for you about grape.
I'm not going to be drinking while this happens.
And the reason that we don't have grape ice cream is because back when ice cream was like kind of popping off, right? Like back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Nobody fact checked me on this. Fact check me a little bit, but I think it's true. Anyway, so like this guy was like, I make ice cream, right? He was like an ice cream man, and then he was like dating this woman. And then he was like, here's some grape ice cream. And she gave the grape ice cream to her dog, and the dog died because dogs can't eat grapes. And so that's why we don't have grape ice cream, because this one guy was like, oh my God, it kills dogs. This is poison. I've made it poison, and I've ruined my chance to smash. I can never do this again. And so that's like, I think the story of why we don't have grape ice cream.
That's crazy.
That's a piece of Americana for you.
Let me play the devil's advocate. One dog ruined it all for everybody.
Okay. Just like probably some like little shitty.
My God, because I was like, wait, they can't have raisins, right? So, and a live raisin is a grape. So that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think it was just kind of like a general like, oh, maybe this would be bad for people too, and it's like it would be fine. I'm not a big fan of grape flavor, but it killed the dog because dogs can't eat grapes.
Ever thought of that?
Yeah.
America, stop feeding your dog. Preemptively, I know you stopped feeding your dog grape ice cream, but still, yeah.
Well, you can now because one person ruined it for everyone. It's like McDonald's with like the changing from beef tallow to peanut oil. Like one guy has a heart attack, and now
people with nut allergies can't have. So what's going on? We're ruining it for everybody. Air fry it.
Everybody wants their participation trophy. Welcome to the real podcast.
We're just going to reveal ourselves to you 19 episodes in.
Yeah, now that we got you, sinker.
McDonald's. I think McDonald's need to get in on the air fryer.
McDonald's air fryer?
A McDonald's branded air fryer, but they're gonna be like, we're so healthy, we don't use oil at all. We use the air fryer.
I feel like McDonald's I feel like an air fried fry would just taste like a In-N-Out fry, kind of dry.
I like this. I love an In-N-Out fry. I do love a McDonald's fry, but sometimes don't you feel like when you eat it, you have like a film of like,
grease. Yeah, that's like part of the fry thing, like right, like they're deep fried.
My God. I mean, if you were at all hungry, listening to this when you got in, I'm so sorry. We made you further hungry for maybe not hungry anymore for McDonald's at the moment.
Maybe not. But anyway, we've had our 10 minutes of fast food talk, or requisite 10 minutes that we give ourselves.
The top number one food podcast that turns into a scary podcast after we realize we've been talking for 15 minutes about food.
I'm sorry, but thank you for sticking with us as always. So shall we get into topics? Alrighty. So I will start with the story of Andrew Dawson, Canadian TikToker, who on April 9th, 2022, posted a TikTok with a simple message on the thumbnail. It's a giant. And here's that clip for you. And as a reminder, we have a YouTube feed. We have a video on Spotify. We are a video podcast now, and we would love for you to watch with us. So here we go. We have a mountain. He's zooming in like a smartphone video.
What is it? It's a person, dude. No, seriously, pull over.
Mm-hmm.
It's a person standing there.
No, it's not.
Dude, if you've seen what I've seen right now.
And you get the point. It's just the video of a mountain. There's something on top of the mountain, something going on, and Andrew seems convinced that it's a giant. The video is kind of everything you expect. You know, it's shaky, it's unclear what's actually going on, and it's pretty innocuous, you know. And Andy was convinced that he saw a giant on top of the mountain. His friend in the car with him is dubious about it and refuses to pull over, and he counters the claim that it's a giant no, it's not, which that's a platform I'm also on. Despite Andrew's claim that if you've seen what I've seen right now, my friend just keeps driving. So that's the whole video. And if that video was the full story, I don't think it would have gained the online notoriety that it's achieved. But of course, there's a little bit more to the story than a shaky shot of a mountain. So Andrew Dawson was already a fairly popular TikToker at the time. He had around 56,000 followers. And he began posting on July 3rd, 2021. And, you know, I had to watch the full catalog to get a feeling for our boy and to see if there was a precedent for him seeing the giant and what came after. The picture that emerges from watching every TikTok of his is mainly kind of a Canadian dude bro who loved his wife, his kids, and his dog. He had a prankster sensibility, but with a general kind of Canadian harmlessness. So like one video was a compilation of him driving up to people and being like, hey, you have your keys in your door. And then they looked and they obviously they don't have the keys in the door because they're driving. Pretty funny, you know, that kind of thing. But there are also moments of vulnerability. There are clips of him listening to music on the verge of tears in the car, and some motivational clips with messages like, you know, sometimes you forget you're awesome, so here's your reminder, keep shining, heart emoji, you know, kind of like nice stuff. And then October 16th, 2021, he posted this.
Have you ever had 22 inches of meat in your mouth?
No, I can't. No, I haven't. But did you know that COVID numbers are on the rise again? It's kind of like it's seasonal.
So we're saying, you know, he's kind of dubious about COVID. If you remember, that was kind of like a anti-vax argument, was that it's just like the flu and it just kind of is going to come in seasons, right? And it's not spread by people. So then he also posted a video where the gist of it was, you know, the sound was, I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. And then the message was, anytime Bonnie Henry talks. And Bonnie Henry is the provincial health minister of British Columbia and led the response to COVID-19 in the province. So I could sense some red pills floating around in the system. And then came this video. Could this be real? Dream. The text says, could this be real? And he's going to talk about its dream. So.
Okay, hear me out. What if Noah's Ark wasn't actually a boat, but it was actually a freaking hard drive? The animals that Noah collected weren't actually like animals. They were like files he stole. And like Noah was a hacker and God was like the Matrix. And then the Great Flood wasn't actually a flood. It was like a reformat. I don't know, man. I don't know. I need to go back to bed.
Yeah, you do.
I agree with you.
Go to
That's
sleep.
probably the best course of action. But, you know, we're seeing some creative thinking there. You know, so it's not seeing a giant, but giants are pretty huge in the paranormal kind of Christian intersection. There's like this whole theory about like the Nephilim being sent here as like punishment or something, you know. I had an interesting, this is off script. I had an interesting interaction where I won a free massage. I went to get the massage. And then midway through the massage, the masseuse was like, hey, do you believe in giants? And I was like, you mean like tall people? And I was like, yeah, like gigantism is a thing. And they're like, no, like biblical giants. And I was like, no, why would I?
Was this during your research time?
During the massage. It was, yeah.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, this is a synchronicity that you're asking me about giants. And then I was like, given what happens next in the story, maybe they're secretly a CIA agent.
Oh my God, Ben. I can't make this podcast by myself. I don't know all the passwords. Put them in the Discord before you die.
That's true. You have most of the passwords. You'll be fine. But that's just a little bit of synchronicity. You know, in terms of giants, I don't really get into like the kind of mythology of giants. I'm not really like, I don't know anything about the Bible. I'm not like a Bible person. So I don't really want to engage in that too much in terms of like, well, according to Ephesians, there should be, I don't know. And I'm not going to wade into that. So in February 2022, he posted a video of him looking emotional in a car with a text on the screen reading, how it feels to work away, but know your family is taken care of. So let's keep the timeline in mind. In February, Andrew is away from his family. In April, he claims to see a giant. And in between, he is not going back to his family. There's a lot more videos about him getting blackout drunk and doing coke. So he's, on the work site, far away from home. Those are the main themes. He has a recurring bit where one of his buddies pretends to be a methed out neighbor. And there's some TikToks from the job site over the next 2 months. But the giant sighting is really a critical point in Andrew. There's only 13 videos on his page after the giant sighting, but it's all giant related content from there on out. People on TikTok roasted him for his shaky camera work in the original video. He responds that he was really zoomed in and he's going to go hunt for the giant. He says someone should get a helicopter for him so he can get in closer. That never happened. He films himself driving through the countryside looking for the giant, right? He has videos claiming he was stopped by the CIA. He has videos where he's filming what he thinks are UFOs. He has videos of helicopters that he claims are extracting something secret from the mountain. He posts a video of a man with a black car that he claims is a CIA agent blocking off an area. And then he posts a video of that same black car claiming that it has been stalking him. And then on May 6th, he posts a video where he says that all of the videos are scripted and fake. But then on May 16th, he posts a video where he says, "You might not see me post ever again. My videos, they weren't fake." The video's description read, quote, "Too much has happened and I can't be forced to be silent," end quote. After that, there's only one other video that was posted the next day, May 17th, 2022. The thumbnail of the video showed a mountain with a structure on top and the symbol question, military. The video itself was just Andrew wondering what the structure was and saying that it was not there the day before. And that's his last post. And then an obituary was published in the Campbell River Monitor on July 1st, 2022. In the obituary, Andrew was remembered as a loving husband, father, uncle, brother, and son. This is the internet, and naturally the obituary paired with Andrew's series of giant-related videos has people thinking that he was killed or disappeared by the shadow government because he was getting too close to the truth about giants. Second time we've mentioned the Jumpers Jump podcast, and again, I do not want to smoke with them, but they've got a big platform, and their clip of the Andrew Dawson giant story has 6.8 million likes, just to kind of show it's getting out there, right? That's pretty big numbers. And the video just recaps the story as Andrew presents it through the TikToks. And I get it. It's a wild story. It seems like good content. And that's what we're doing here too. But I think that it's worth looking at the videos themselves and the story behind them a little bit more critically. And another reminder here that this is a video segment we're moving into where I'll be showing JD some presentations.
Awesome. Let's go.
All right. So first of all, thanks to all the geoguessers out there. We know that Andrew's giant video was of Canoe Mountain in British Columbia. And is that big enough for you? Are you able to see that well? So here are on the left, we have Andrew's original videos, right? And on the right, I have from Wikimedia, the north face of Canoe Mountain. And you can see it's a pretty solid match. We have the same basic slope at the top. The peak is the same position. And it's not only a match in terms of the slope and the mountain itself, but you can see that there's something on top of the mountain in both images, right? Okay, great. So something's up there, right? But what is it? If you open your favorite maps app and you look for Canoe Mountain, British Columbia, which is about 10 miles or 16 kilometers southeast from the town of Valemount, you'll see that there's a trail up to the mountain to a structure. It's actually traversable by ATV and four-wheel drive cars in the summer and is reachable by snowmobile or foot during the winter. And here we have some images from Stephen Song's mountain climbing blog, where he took photos of the structure on top. We also have some images from people that have made it up the mountain in summer, taken from their YouTube videos. So you can see, it looks like a
Brady,
tower, right?
Brady moment. Is it Tom Brady?
Brady, yeah. We have some graffiti that says Brady sucks cocks and dicks on there. There's also a spray painted dick on the other image. So it's not great, yeah. But Stephen Wallace went up there, and in this video where you see Brady sucks cocks and dicks, he went into the building, and there's a small former bunk room, and there's a room with some wires. It's not super impressive. As you can see, it's graffitied up. It's pretty tore up all over. And if you look under the Brady sucks cocks and dick tag, you will see the logo for CNPC Telecommunications. And in some websites, it's also described as a broadcast tower. So first of all, Brady, it gets better, given that you're not shot on site when you approach this publicly accessible tower. I think that it's safe to say that it's a telecommunications tower, right? And you can also see between these two images that with snow, it's pretty bulky, right? So maybe you're with me so far, but a couple of days later, Andrew posted another video showing the same mountaintop, but now the giant was no longer visible, right? And I think that the explanation for that, it does go back to the snow buildup. It's just not as visible when the tower is not covered in snow, right? Conditions on the mountain can change quickly, and it's not unusual for it to be covered in snow, but it's also not unusual for the snow to get blown off or melt off. Also, it's a mountain, and the tower is not at the true peak, so it's not going to be visible from every angle around the mountain. And there are multiple highways going around Canoe Mountain, so you could be seeing it from different angles. Now, some videos are out there changing the story a bit, and they're saying things like, oh, Andrew asked the locals, and they told him, quote, something lives up in the mountains, but it's not always visible. But what Andrew's video, where he talks about speaking with locals, actually says is, I spoke to some locals, and it comes and goes, apparently, I don't know. So I think it's an important distinction to make, because it's not quite as, it comes and goes, apparently, I don't know, is not as definitive or as interesting as something lives in the mountain, right? It doesn't make it seem like it's some mysterious elder god. It's just something you can see sometimes. And so I think it's, it's more visible in certain conditions and from certain locations. And to illustrate that, here's a photo that's very close to the summit in summer. And you can see that the structure is not that apparent, right? And that's this one on the left.
Yeah,
you can see it's up there at the top, but it's not huge, right? And this is like on the mountain. This is like, less than a mile away, probably. And then on this photo on the right, it's the same mountain, right? But and now you can't see anything, right? And that is until you zoom in, because this is a very big image. And then you can see that the same thing is there, right? But it's much more faint. It's nowhere near as visible, right? But, Andrew was probably using a smartphone, and the camera can't pick up the faint structure from where he was. And in terms of videos showing something, some more videos of it close, you can see, it's just a regular kind of telecommunications tower, right? And the last video that he posted was the military video, right? And it's from his original video on the left, where you see the mountain and you see the structure on top of the mountain, right? And he's like, I think it was a military structure. It wasn't there before. And I spent a truly stupid amount of time trying to find where it was shot and what the video shows. I managed to channel my inner Jose Monkey and figured out that the final video was taken on Patricia Street in Jasper, Alberta.
And you're gonna get snapped up by the CIA. It's not because you're gonna die and get killed, and I'm gonna be alone on Discord and this podcast. It's because you're able to find this.
I've spent a lot of time just looking at Google Maps. But I got my match finally. It worked out. So it's about an hour and a half from Valemount, British Columbia, which is by Canoe Mountain. And there's also, an hour and a half. It's very close by rural Northwest standards. The structure in question is the upper terminal of the Jasper Skytram, which is on Whistler Mountain. And so as like a side note, there's some videos where they say that Andrew's first video was of Whistler's Peak or Whistler's Summit. And I personally think that Canoe Mountain is a better match. But I understand why, because they are, again, pretty close, and it's like the same basic area of inland Northwest Canada, right? And again, I have videos and the PowerPoint available. We've got sources included. You can check them out for yourself. I feel comfortably saying that Andrew's first video is not a giant. It's a telecommunications tower covered in snow, probably. If you look closely at Andrew's first video, you can even see the wider tower. So it's like, okay, it's a tower. The UFO video looks a lot like a contrail from a plane, but it's being lit by kind of dawn or dusk light, right? So it looks kind of orange, but you can see it's like two kind of clouds coming from one single point, right? And it's like flying down, and it just looks like a short contrail. And then the helicopters are also not particularly suspicious, because the helicopters are used in logging. It's not, removing secret evidence of giants. It's just the logging industry, which I think Andrew probably was part of, because it's rural Northwest Canada. I think he knew that. Andrew's wife has also said that the CIA agent videos and the car stalking videos are staged. And I think that tracks. I would like to show you one more video, which is the interaction with the CIA agent. And let's see what you think of this.
The guy's here again. Yeah, this is him. What's going on?
Road's closed. Turn around.
Really?
Yeah, man. Just turn around, please.
Okay. Have a good night, man. So that was fucked up. There he is. I'm driving past him again. Just turned around. I don't understand why it's closed off, though. It's a fucking public park. Or public road or whatever.
Okay, so that's the interaction. Did you notice anything that just jumped out as you as particularly CIA positive or negative there?
I was just a little bit wondering about what car that was.
Yeah, so I think it's a Charger.
Yeah.
It looks like yeah, I think definitely you can see from the back here it's a Charger. You can also see that he may technically be a man in black. I think he's wearing black joggers, which is not usually what I think government agents wear. And also, I'd like to here you can see it, right? He's got joggers and he's got sneakers on. That's not. I don't think that's standard issue FBI, CIA, nighttime.
Yeah, I was thinking
right?
These kind of look like Tim's.
Yeah, he might be wearing Tim's. I mean, it would make sense. He's in a cold place. Why not? Yeah, and then I want to flag his delivery here.
Turn around.
Really?
Yeah, man. Just turn around, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, just turn around, please. Have you ever talked to law enforcement?
Yeah, I was like does the CIA say please? Man was stumbling.
Yeah, man.
My brain is it's not what if they're filming a video, right? This is a production assistant telling you to hey, this area is blocked off because we're filming something, we're doing something nefarious over there. My brain is gang activity, someone's filming something, music video over there, or just some guy who's waiting to hook up with someone in the back who's just I don't want people here. But
yeah, for sure. And also I think we need to keep in mind that Andrew produced videos. He made a lot of videos, and there's videos where he's oh my god, this is my neighbor, the crackhead or whatever, and you're it's just your neighbor, it's just a guy you work with and you're friends with. I think that could also be going on. He's hey man, can you park your car here and I'll approach it and we'll act like you're an FBI guy. And then the other video where he's claiming he's being stalked is just he opens the door to his apartment and the car is parked right in front of the door basically. And then it just peels out. Right. And it's that same black Charger.
Wow.
So again, I think he knows the guy. I think he's just kind of being so we're going to do this and make it look like I'm, being stalked by the FBI. And then the final video also does not show a day-old military facility. So the Jasper Skytram has been there since 1964. So it was not constructed yesterday when he filmed it, right? I think that covers the videos, but Andrew's disappearance from TikTok and later his death is the main fuel in the conspiracy fire, right? So firstly, there's the disappearance. Andrew's wife has her own social media, and Andrew appeared in her videos after he posted for the last time on his own personal account. And there's nothing in her videos to indicate that they were being hunted by government agents. It's just them hanging out, driving around, joking around, just doing life type stuff. Andrew also had a Facebook page that he continued to post on through June. So he did not suddenly disappear between his last TikTok and his obituary, right? Andrew's wife has continued to post, but her comment section are just huge seas of harassment from conspiracy believers. And on January 7th, 2023, she posted a video with this message, quote, "If you haven't been through grief, shut the fuck up. Don't judge on why someone is smiling after losing someone. I've done my healing stages. If you want to believe in conspiracies, that's on you. Mental health is rough. You don't know what someone is going through. Social media is powerful. Harassment is another level of bullying. Be nice to one another, but I'm still here, reading, feeling, and won't give a fuck about the negatives. Much love to all the positive support." Andrew was known to have struggled with his mental health. He talked about that a little bit on his own TikTok, and then his wife has also confirmed that. He was open to conspiracy thinking, as we saw in his own videos, and I can't definitively say whether or not he believed that the giant video was real. Totally possible that he did. I do know that he was an inspiring rapper and was dedicated to building a social media following, and I think that he got a lot more traction than he did before from the giant content. Obviously, I have no idea what was going on in his head at the time or over the last few months of his life. His work required that he spend extended periods of time away from his family, and it's apparent that his family was incredibly important to him, especially as a support network, and being separate from them could not have been easy for him. There's a distinct shift in his videos when he's away from his family, which is the last couple months of activity on his page, and it seems like he was struggling to cope with the distance from his support network and living in emotional and literal isolation. I think we can see the struggle in the increased joking about substance use. and just generally him kind of seeming more emotional in his videos. He worked a blue-collar job in deeply rural British Columbia, and I found, plenty of documentation, found a 2020 study from the CDC, which examined suicide rates in 32 states and found the highest suicide rates by industry were in extraction and construction jobs, which I think is what Andy was in, with 49.4 deaths per 100,000 men. This is nearly double the base suicide rate for men in these states. And in some states, including Oregon, where I'm at, the suicide rate for extraction and construction working men is 4 times the national average. Oregon also is, the Northwest, kind of a similar rural environment to British Columbia. I'm not an expert. I work with books, but it looks like Andrew was working in extraction, potentially logging from the job site videos. And maybe you're thinking there's no way this carries over into Canada, but it does. We see the same trends in the Great White North. Men in Canada account for 73% of suicide. And rural men are more likely to commit suicide. And so there's a lot of factors to this. The way that men are socialized in North American society does not encourage them to seek help. In rural areas, the ideals of rugged individualism are even more apparent than in cities. And there is also just the practical aspect that in rural areas, you are more isolated. There are not as many resources to take advantage of. There are higher rates of substance abuse in rural areas for much the same reason. I bring this up not to diminish the specifics of Andrew's story and his struggles with mental health, but to draw attention to the environment he was living in and the culture that he was a part of. It's a tragedy that Andrew did not have access to or did not feel that he could find the support he needed. Maybe I'm wrong, and these conspiracy theorists that believe that he's alive and playing some elaborate prank are right, and I would prefer that outcome, but I don't think that's very likely. I understand, of course, that asking the internet to leave someone alone is a stupid thing to do, but his family is still here, and to them, he was a lot more than just some dude who saw a giant. So I would encourage and remind people, not that I think our listeners would do this, to please leave his family alone. I don't have much moral high ground here, right? Because I was drawn to the spectacle of a giant and a government cover-up, the same as everybody else. But as I looked more into him, the picture just became more sympathetic and more tragic. It's tragic that he couldn't find the support he needed. It's tragic that his memory has been hijacked. And it's tragic that his family is not just dealing with the grief of losing a loved one, but harassment and accusations that they are somehow responsible. If you're listening to this podcast, I can't speak for JD, but I want you alive. So if you're in the US, as a reminder, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is 988, and Talk Suicide Canada is reachable at 1-833-456-4566. Stick around with us, and that's pretty much what I got. So just,
leave his family alone, and I love y'all. Yeah. I think, I don't know, my big question of all this, like, detached from, like, Andrew's whole thing is, like, I guess this is something that we're gonna encounter a lot, like in this kind of like general investigation. So I guess this is like a general question for us too, like outside of Andrew and then outside of these giant things. It's just like what compels people to like. Let's say like he did see something and he like believes that that's what he saw. Like great, fantastic. But like it's the people who like intentionally like make up like something and then like run wild with it, right? And like what is the draw? Like what compels someone, I guess, to like fake stuff like this, like make a little thing like this? Is it like, okay, you could be like, oh, attention, people love attention, but if it's like not an attention kind of thing, is it like I want to be part of the culture kind of thing? Yeah,
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I feel like with this case, you could see like Andrew was very motivated by kind of pursuing some kind of internet clout in general. So I could see that being a factor, but I don't think he would have really. I didn't get the impression that he was like a super like into the paranormal guy. That was not like a through line or anything. Like he did have like his rap career that he wanted to take off. So I think, maybe he got more traction with the giant thing. The TikTok algorithm works the way it does, and he got it randomly, and he was like, I'm going to capitalize it. But then he kind of felt, again, totally armchair, felt like, well, this isn't what I want to be famous for. And then that's why I stopped posting. It's hard to say. Who knows? But it is like, it's tough to say people's motivations, but it's kind of like, you want attention, but you want attention for a certain reason. And then you never know what it is that's going to be the thing that gets you the attention that you're seeking. If you're like, a person that does want online clout, then it's like, well, why am I famous for this bit? And this is like what I have to do, right? Like you can become that guy that just like does like the TikTok guy that does the, he watches silly videos and he does like the face thing. And it's like, is that what you were hoping your fame would be? Like maybe not.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of an interesting because this is like something that I'll run into as well, and like keep that question in mind. But I don't know. It's like there's also the other thing that like I guess it also like covers like the general like space of like the paranormal of like why like the only time I genuinely believe that like, hey guys, these black trucks are like following me around is usually like in the cases of like people leaving like a really like a church cult like religion kind of thing where they get like supremely like harassed by like black cars from like the cult from the like the religion kind of thing. So like sometimes it's like, okay, you're like a civilian, you're I guess exposing this to the world, but like for the most part some people will be like, this is horseshit, this is dog shit. Then why would the CIA come after you specifically? Because like even if you got an audience for like this thing, most of the time people will still be like, this is dog shit, or yeah,
I mean the threat of releasing like information about giants, I think it does really tie in with like the kind of Christian nature of the giant conspiracies in general, right? So I think that would probably be that seems to be kind of a motivation for some people in the comments, is like, oh, he was going to basically prove that the Bible is true, right? And obviously the secular government can't have
I did not think of it in that way.
So I think that would be viewed as the motivation, but again, I mean, it's not, the CIA is not in those videos. That's a dude that Andrew knew. And like, also, I mean, if you were getting stalked by the CIA, you probably wouldn't know. Like, it wouldn't be like a black car parked directly in front of your door.
Like the Men in Black idea kind of thing. Like, wouldn't the CIA now know to like, we gotta follow them in like a Toyota Corolla? Yeah,
and like, we're not gonna park where you can see us. Right, you're probably just like, we'll just listen to you through your phone speaker. So no problem.
No, it's very interesting when it comes to like conspiracy theories that involve like known bodies of the government that do have like believable existing like conspiracy theories, like dropping vampires on the Philippines to scare everybody CIA style. That's real. Kind of thing, but it's like happened. Damn, oh no, that was interesting. But also in terms of like, I think a lot of what we do is like looking beyond the meme, behind the meme kind of thing. And this is like one of those moments where it's like,
I think it was felt more like a bummer to me because it was just about this one guy, really. Like it was very personal, and it's like, I watched a lot of videos from his wife too, and it's like, she'll just have like very innocuous videos of like, oh, it's me at Christmas hanging out with my friends, and everyone will be like, oh, why you're acting like this? You shouldn't be acting like this. You're probably a CIA agent. Like, just you're part of it. You're part of the conspiracy. It's like, Jesus Christ, like. Like chill the fuck out. Yeah, so it's like I think it was just like the personal nature of it, where it's like, I mean, on the internet everything kind of becomes like a narrative and like a story that we like to get invested in, but it's weird because it's social media, and it's like there are still like just people behind the discount. Like, just because she's like posting herself like having fun at like a Christmas party doesn't mean she's like, you don't know what's going on. So you want to think that you have some insider information because you watched his TikToks. Which again, like, they're just TikToks too. There's no like necessarily like truth in there. Like again, like and I feel like he was following a lot of kind of conspiracy beats, right? Like he had this is gonna be the last thing I ever post. You'll never be able to see me again. And I think that he was kind of playing the game to some extent. Like he was good. He was a good content creator. I think that whatever you're going to say about him, he knew how to get views and knew how to. I mean, he started out with 56,000 followers, and now post-mortem he has like a couple million now. I think so.
Yeah. I think the act of creation is a crazy thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it does lead to the question, like, if we posted something that we just were doing kind of for shits and giggles, and then it got a lot of traction, how would we handle that?
Yeah, because we are like we have a good head on our shoulders, right? But also like it's the idea of like maybe we were meant to be only aware of like a couple hundred people, not billions of people all over the world, kind of thing. Unless like where our intent was to be like an Olivia Rodrigo, Beyonce, Billie Eilish type of thing. I think. Yeah, I'd like to think that we would handle it as best as possible. Yeah,
it's also a thing where it's like, I don't think either of us really would want that. Like that sounds like a nightmare to me. But also like if that happened for something that was seemingly so innocuous, like I feel like maybe Andrew was just like fucking around the car again, armchair. It just was like, look, man, it's a giant up there. Because a lot of his videos are just like him fucking with like his coworker and just like making jokes with them and like fucking doing pranks and shit. And so I could see him just being like, I'm going to fuck around with this guy and like have some fun. And then that's what gets you like so much more attention, like exponential growth on your TikTok account because you saw this thing. And then it's like, well, I guess I'm going to lean in.
Isn't that like, that's also like the nature of like viral, like accidental viral dumb, like that kind of thing. You think of like the lady who was like in her car laughing her ass off because she was wearing like the Chewbacca mask and like she like really like enjoyed that kind of thing. And she got like popular off of that. And then you have to lean into the bit that made you huge. And then you are known for that.
Yeah. Right. It's like, I think that the relationship that we build with like influencers and like meme people is not like a multidimensional one. Like you're never going to build a relationship where you're like, oh, I would love to see what the Chocolate Rain, I'm only going to listen to all of his music now. And it's like, you just heard Chocolate Rain and you're like, yeah, cool. That's all I need to know about you. Do the thing. That's it. Like, that's all you ever want to hear from these people. Yeah. And
this is something that you do have to think about because like we do want people to be listening, right? We look at our little audience, we're like, oh my god, we're popping. We got 2% of Japan. Like those kinds of things. But I see it a lot in like when I'm on like the Reddit for the Twitch streamers and seeing what everyone's thinking. It's just like sometimes people like a lot more like the smaller Twitch streamers who are like in the 1Ks, 2Ks, because they still feel like there's a community there. Whereas like 20,000 viewers at once, they feel like they get lost in the sauce as like a viewer because you're sending all these messages and like, you know that it's going to be shouting into the void. Whereas like 1,000 viewers at a time, like maybe like 5-10 people are sending messages at a time. It's like that kind of thing. We want people to be listening to this. We want the engaging kind of stuff on it. But it's like, are we even thought-wise, body-wise, ready for an idea of like looking the next day that one of our episodes had like 15,000 streams and we don't know what to do with that? I think even 15,000, I'd be like, Ben, what the fuck do we say in this one? Read through the script.
Yeah, it would. I think that would be terrifying personally. Like if that happened, I would probably stop doing the podcast. Like if we woke up and it was like 2 million hits on this one episode. I'm like, I'm done. It's done. It's over. I have to go.
Like, I'll open the next episode and I'll be like, hey guys, so it's the last episode. I don't know where Ben went. I've been in touch with our AP. Ben seems to be in a corner in the office. I'd be like, I would be like, Ben, what the fuck happened? Did we like do something? I'd be like, I can't do that again. No.
Yeah, and then it would be like, well, do we do the same thing we did in this episode? Is that how we recreate the formula, or do we just keep doing what we've been doing?
Because like, as people who are like creating these kinds of things, we want people to listen. So we kind of like investigate like what's going on. Like, why does this episode have this much listeners? Is it because of the name? Is it because of the content? Is it a kind of thing? And it's like, you do think about that. And like, maybe that's what happened to like Andrew, where it's a jokey video that he made because he was like shitting around. He's a content creator. And then that's when everyone was like, oh yeah, I believe giants exist as well.
Yeah, this is what this guy is. And it's like, I could see that being like, oh shit, I'm not the giant guy, man. Like I'm like a guy. Like I do pranks, I do rapping, I do like, there's a lot more to me than just the giant thing. Okay, come on. Like, well,
I don't know, Ben, maybe we have to think about that. Maybe we have to consider our options once we wake up one day and ISYmpod.com has like fucking all of a sudden 3,000. The UMV monthly viewership is like at 4,000 at a time. We'd be like, what the fuck is on this website?
Yeah. Like what has happened? What have we done? Where did we go wrong?
Oh my God. I that was a good one because it's like a question for the consumer of meme, but also the creative of
interesting relationship that we have. JD.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Because we're going to be thinking a lot more, even more about the relationship between the creator and the meme and also storytelling. So if you are an author out there, don't listen to me, but here are some tips. Just kidding. Okay. So, stories, they're difficult to keep track of, right? People love to poke at plot holes, debunk storylines, and do a whole bunch of shit to like film, TV, audio, and written stories. I am severely guilty of this. Like, to be honest with you, like, Ben, do you know of a specific time where you were like able to like catch a plot hole in some sort of media that you were consuming? Do you have moments where you take in a story and go like, this is going to go to shit in some way because the creator is having a fun time, but not a very smart time?
I don't know if I have like a specific pull, but I'm definitely like, oh, well, clearly they didn't realize that in this scene he was carrying a briefcase, and then in the next scene he was not. So this MacGuffin is not a full MacGuffin. Like,
perfect. Thank you for bringing in MacGuffin, because we will be talking about MacGuffin in this too as well. But yeah, like we notice these things on set of movies. They have people responsible for like continuity, like keeping track. When I was filming a show with 13 Reasons Why, every day we had to get our clothes taken photos of if we were on screen at a time, just to make sure we were bringing the same clothes for the next day or keeping it in there. So it is a job because it's hard and people notice it. People notice that people are noticing, right? Writing a story is hard. Fantasy, thriller, and like deep, newly built world-based stories have to be very difficult as well, right? So for every single new thing that you introduce, there's something that you have to remember to incorporate every single time, right? So like you create a new race or type of creature. How do they come about? And what are their weaknesses? Do they have a new language? How is it spoken? Who speaks it? When was it invented? That kind of thing. Maybe your character is the last living person on his planet. He came to a new planet all of a sudden, in the ship that he came in, there's a uniform that's perfectly fit for him when he's like in his 20s and all that stuff. Clark Kent, you stupid son of a bitch. But yeah, there's so many things to keep track of in these kinds of things. As an author, that you can make sure, like, you keep track of these things and make sure that you can round them out in some way without it being like a wonderfully wrapped bow, but like in a sensible kind of wrap up, right? I have friends who are like authors who write original stories, and then also like speaking to like people who write fan fiction. People who write fan fiction, you have to know your media very well. You know how to work your story within the canon, how to fix canon, subvert canon. Even they working through someone else's story have to be very aware of the story inside out, right? Just in case they might need to answer like a commenter on Archive of Our Own who's asking like, how did Will and Hannibal stay alive after they fell off that fucking cliff? What do you mean there's an after? Spoiler if you've never finished Hannibal, right? But yeah, so Ben, ISYM Pod audience, I invite you to think of some of the famous continuity errors that you know of, story fuck-ups, and as you and I dive into one of Twitter's hottest threads in the past decade. Ooh. No, we're not talking about Bean Dad, if you know what Bean Dad is. With a kid who's like, my child doesn't know how to use a can opener. Let me make a fucking whole thread about this and tell everyone I'm a shit dad. We are not talking about Bean Dad. We are talking about Dear David, which I remember that you said you don't know anything about. So I am excited.
No familiarity. I don't know Bean Dad either, but I don't want to get sidetracked.
I'll stick Bean Dad in your Instagram. But yeah, okay. Dear David is created by Adam Ellis, who is of BuzzFeed fame. According to famousbirthdays.com, Adam attended Art Institute of Boston and is a Montana boy. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, but I have to be careful not to hit leave like a fucking dummy. So, Ben, I need you to just look at the picture. Don't look at the slides on the side, okay?
Oh, okay. Don't look at the slides on the side. Okay.
Cover right now, okay? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
so
okay.
You might recognize some of these like drawings, these art comic styles. He is he's a sort of like semi-distinct art style, and I think it's pretty neat to have a style that's like kind of like known for you. You can think of it if you're not looking at the video, open up the video right now on Spotify or YouTube. I'm telling you, we got pictures in this one. We're like a picture book.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look
on the side if you're watching.
I'm gonna come after you. I'll show up in your house. But yeah, you can think of his style if you're not listening because you're driving. I don't want you to look at anything if you're driving. I swear to God. But his style is like thickish black lines, flat colors with flat shading, simplified eyes with detailed bodies and clothing. For the most part, the heads of the characters are as big as the characters' torsos. But he also has some new like realistic comics as well. But it looks like even if they're a little bit more realistic in terms of like anatomy, the eyes have pretty much remained the same. So, yeah.
Pretty polished style.
Yeah, you're looking at this now. You're seeing this like humanized Beauty and the Beast situation, experience as a cat owner. Mm-hmm. Here's some of this like horror content. Yeah. So
it's that guy.
Adam Ellis. So he's that guy. Yeah, he has a very distinct like.
Yeah, we have the same hair.
Ben, you're in this one. Okay. I'm going. Okay, that is Adam Ellis. You now remember his face, kind of. Okay. In August 2017, some time ago, I was counting how long that was ago. I was like, it's been that long?
It's like
but I
6
remember
years.
when this coming about. Are we old? Yeah. In 2017, Adam tweeted the tweet of all time. He tweets, "So my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me."
Okay.
And this whole thing started a boatload of chaos for Adam. The story of Dear David goes like this. One evening, Adam was having a sleep paralysis moment and saw a little kid at the end of his bed. The little kid has a misshapen head. Okay, so let me go back to... I'm gonna just keep the screen on. Just don't fucking look at it. Don't look at the sides in the corner, you bitch. Okay.
Not looking on the side. Okay, so we got Sloth from the Goonies. Okay.
So he sees... This is his interpretation of it, right? Right. So he sees this kid with a little misshapen head. And from then on, from August 2017 to March 2018, long time, Adam gets absolutely terrorized by this child. From his 2 apartments in New York to Japan and Montana, it's a global moment. We love to see it. We're going global here. Okay. So here's the quick rundown. Even more detailed. Adam sees this kid in his paralysis state and has a dream later of this young girl coming up to him and giving him the lowdown on who this child is that's attempted to do something to him. The girl says, he's dead, and he only appears at midnight. You can ask him 2 questions, only if you say, Dear David, first. So there's where the Dear David name comes from. And she follows it up with, but never try to ask him a 3rd question or he will kill you. Remember these rules, besties. Okay. Obviously, when Adam later dreams about David, he completely fucks it up and asks a 3rd question without starting it with Dear David. So he breaks 2 rules.
Did he do it by like doing like a Dear David, can I please ask you a question? And then it was like, yes, that was your first question. It's like,
he was like, Dear David, who are you? Dear David, what happened to your Dear David, like, why are you here? And then David answers, and he's like, what happened to your head? And he's like, oh shit, it's a 3rd question. And I didn't say Dear David.
Yeah, and he didn't say Dear David, so yeah.
But nothing happens, obviously, because he keeps tweeting. It's none of that, like, if you die in a dream, you die in real life too kind of shit. Adam just wakes up absolutely fucking terrified, right? So I highly encourage everyone, including you, Ben, to read the whole thing because while it is a little, it has really interesting storytelling and cool photos. So I'm just going to now go through the bigger events of it. But trust me, I try my best to make it all connect easily because the threads are very chaotic and reflective of Adam's panic and anxiety about this whole thing. It's very nice to read, but I'm just going to kind of bring it down to you, right? Yeah, Cliff Notes, right?
Cliff Notes.
JD's notes. Anyway, Adam basically documents this whole thing that starts in the 1st floor room of this 2-story apartment that he lives in, and then the thing follows him to the 2nd floor apartment where he moves to. So he basically starts off in this duplex kind of thing, and he's like, "Let me go upstairs. I'm gonna move. Goodbye, David." He's hoping that like by moving up, David's gonna leave him alone, gonna start and keep haunting the person downstairs. He starts to notice though once he moves up, more weird things happening in his apartment. His cats start meowing at the door at specific times at night. There's crashing sounds in his ceiling/attic. He gets videos of his cats standing on their hind legs and looking like they're seeing shit. He sees a little head through the door's peephole when he checks. And he sees a whole bunch of other shit. Outside of his apartment, he sees when he's like walking around because he's in New York, he's going to bodegas. He's on the way to a bodega to get groceries. He sees an empty warehouse and freaks him out about it because he hears a crashing noise inside and he's like, this must have to do with David because in my dream, I saw David for the first time on a green chair and there's a green chair in this warehouse. Facts, no printer. Yeah, he's like...
The threads pulling together. Yeah.
And then in Japan, he sees like the statue and he's like, oh, what a beautiful statue. But then he zeroes in on one of the figures in the statue and it's a little kid with his head kind of slightly caved in.
Coincidence? Also, does it tie in with the... So the first comic that you showed me is the teacup from Beauty and the Beast. The teacup turns into a real boy, but in Adam's version, he has a big chunk of his skull missing, and his brains
That's
are
why
kind of still
I added
out.
that photo. Ben, you are a genius. You are my best friend. I was hoping. I didn't point it out because I was like, maybe he'll say something.
I'm seeing there's some threads here in the unconscious.
While ago.
Yeah.
So when I was looking through all of his comments, I was like, Adam.
Yeah, the foundation's here.
You have it in your mind, right? So in Japan, he sees a kid with a busted head on a statue. And then in Montana, when he goes back home, he swears that David shows up to his house through the window, looks around, and tramps around in the snow like a little kid would. The story has a lot of elements that you can see, read, or hear from a lot of like thriller and horror stories of the back then times, right? If you're looking for a good long night read, Adam's got a story for you. And let me get into my best Stefan from NFL pose. It's New York's hottest nightclub. You've got animals reacting to ghosts, disbelieving landlord that won't fix anything for you, nightmares and sleep paralysis, a kid ghost in your house and in your dreams, down to finding old-ass items in your house that may have belonged to a dead child, and also the mention of a Native American trading post from Montana. It's also got elements of new horror, video footage, security cameras, and lots and lots of evidence. Basically, we've got indoor security cam footage and photos enough to fill a next door neighborhood Facebook page. Okay? We've got it all. The story comes from 6 months worth of tweet from Adam, and it has a lot of moving parts because all of that makes it a hefty tale, but also from my point of view, in my opinion, makes it hard to keep track of as a storyteller. And even sometimes, a
lot of pieces.
Sometimes as a consumer, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It's also Twitter. Like, he's tweeting about this and also his regular stuff. So you're like, where's the dead? So beautifully and wonderfully, Adam does come up, put it all together in one place. So it's in the script. It will be in the thing for you to look at. I got you. Don't worry. But yeah, Dear David eventually culminates into something that we will talk about later because I have some thoughts on the conclusion of the story and the way it just went. I'm so sorry, Adam. The way that it went absolutely fucking nowhere. Or did it? Right? Again, I'm not covering everything. I'm not covering anything. Just kidding. Everything. And I highly encourage you to check it out. It's months and months of tweets compiled by Adam and wonderfully compiled here in this link that you need to look, but also by JD. No. Right. Okay. The JD
edit.
Really? It's a JD edit. And it's just me going, Adam, this fucking sucks. Anyway, so tropes, themes, characters. Oh my. Okay.
I apologize if you can hear my neighbors vacuuming above me.
On my end, I can't hear you.
Okay. Okay, cool. They're kind of stomping a little bit.
Okay.
So,
ooh, maybe that's David. Ben, it's been passed over to you. He's here. But yeah, okay. Dear David, as I mentioned, has a shit ton of horror trope favorites, right? And I'm going to go through them right now. So one, I got all of these from TV tropes because I wasn't about to imagine them on my own, right? One, we have the creepy child. David, our sweet little nephew, he's the story's creepy child. If you are not familiar with what the creepy child trope is, you can think of like Wednesday from the Addams Family, Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, the little kid, Sam, the little kid from Trick or Treat with like the thing on his head, the sack on his head, Damien from The Omen, Skyrim, apparently Babette kind of thing, Billy and Mandy, Grim Adventures. Mandy is a creepy child, and The
Exorcist.
This is the one that I was like, I had never thought of it as a creepy child. Stewie from Family Guy.
Yeah, sure. I can. Yeah,
he was one of the examples.
Fits, right?
I was like, really? Oh, yeah, he's a freaky little child with his football head. But yeah, David, if you remember, as a creepy child kind of thing, he has rules that he abides by, right? Only appears at midnight, needs you to start your sentences with Dear David. He's got manners. He hobbles at you at night. He stands on chairs. He shows up.
He hobbles at you?
Because he's been hit in the head. He has a concussion. He has a little concussion. And he shows up in your kitchen window. He is a kid with some dark tendencies, such as maybe wanting to kill you. He's a creepy child. He's sweet and a little bizarre, right? Then next we have the cats are magic and evil detecting dog tropes, right? This one pertains specifically to Adam's cats, Maxwell and Pepper. One of his cats has 3 legs. We will celebrate this cat. This is the idea that pets have some sort of like magic detecting or evil detecting skill because they're animals, or because animals aren't hindered by human ideas of like, this shit isn't real. Or like the cats aren't going to be like,
right.
Photoshop this. Right? The cats in general are like, outside of like Adam's like terrible dream, they're the first to truly sense the weirdness that was about to happen to Adam. Early in the saga, in like the very first like thread, when Adam moves to the new apartment, above his old one, the cats start getting weird. They start like staring at the door, and meowing at it, and it weirds Adam out enough to the point where he takes a photo of the space outside his door through the peephole, and he sees something. From August 28th, Adam invests in a cat monitoring. I hate this word. Monitoring? How do you say that? Monitoring.
Monitoring, I think.
I practice the word all the time, and it just fucks me up. Anyway, he invests in a camera and catches more of his cats being like creepy. They stand on their hind legs. They jump over weird invisible things. But, Ben, you and I have got cats.
Yeah, and especially like when you move, they act a little weird because it's like a new place.
You just moved above. Maybe they're like looking back. They're like, we came from downstairs. I can smell the downstairs, right?
Yeah, I can still sense it down there. That's where I live.
Freaky. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, cats are perfectly normal. If I move my office stuff around, the cats walk in here like they've never seen this place before. So
it's a completely new environment.
Cat goes into a new thing. If you shift the couch just a little bit, they get a little freaked out. So maybe it's not the haunting, Adam. I'm just like looking to appease you. You know, yeah.
Maybe you just moved.
Yeah. And then the next trope is the paranormal mundane item. The gist of the mundane item is that it's a regular little object that might be old and scary because it's associated with some sort of like time period, right? At some point in the story, when Adam starts to hear some weird shit in the ceiling/attic space above his apartment, he investigates and he finds a marble, listen, with a dent in it, and shoes for sale.
Okay. How does marble get a dent in it?
It was a glass marble too. Yeah.
Because they're glass. Yeah, so
it has a dent.
Is that a dent?
Yeah.
It's more like a chip.
A dent in it. Yeah. He found shoes for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And then later in one of the cat shenanigans moments, we encounter a turtle shell that moves. And he very specifically mentions that it's a turtle shell that's weird, but he got it from a Native American trading post in Montana.
The sacred artifacts that they sell you at like a gas station.
He's literally
or
whatever.
Pit stop. Yeah.
But last but not the least, or even this, all of these tropes don't cover everything. You got to read it. I swear to you. This final trope is caught on tape. Now, this is what made Dear David a hit. For those in the script, for Ben, I have now had the presentation open this entire time, but we're going to go to slide 4. And from there, I'm going to walk you through some very interesting photos and some other forms of evidence. Now, the first trope, caught on tape, speaks for itself, right? We do love caught on tape. Paranormal caught on tape. You're my family, right? The TV tropes, if you're not familiar with it, explains it's like when you need like rock solid evidence that something happened or someone committed a certain act, having it all on video or audio tape is just about the most convincing piece of proof there is. Convincing proof?
Yeah.
But what happens if it's not convincing? So let's go through it, okay? We're here on slide 4. You seeing this?
I see it. It looks like we're looking through a keyhole. And Is it dirty? It's dirty. She's pretty fucking nasty, bro. Right?
So, slide 4. Yeah. On the left photo here, you see a little... Is
that a hallway?
I need you to look very clearly on this part and versus this part. Do you see anything? Or is it...
I see it, yeah. Okay, so there's like a shape. So it looks like... What is that? It's like a bookshelf?
This is a shelf of some sort. Okay, so you need to look in these
there's a shelf of some sort, and then in the corner where the shelf, it looks like the shelf is meeting a staircase. I don't know what the layout of this is. There's like a blob at like the corner where the shelf.
Fantastic! You have great eyes. It took me
on the one on the left.
I thought we were supposed to be looking at the dirty stuff, but turns out it was that. Okay, so. For everyone else, you see a little bump on the side of the shelf compared to the right photo. It's implied that this could have been our nephew, David, creeping on Adam. For context, this is the photo that Adam took outside through the peephole when he noticed that his cats were going crazy. Right? And then slide 5, we have one of Adam's cats peeping the horror. Now it's cat havers. We know that cats' eyes glow in general for no reason at all, right? Hachi, her eyes glow when something surprises her or when she's sitting in the dark. Minnie likes to do it when she's sitting in the dark alone and staring out the window. And specifically when our city does the whole brr, brr, brr thing at night. Because Minnie's from Napa. She's not from Vallejo. She's not used to this. Yeah, she's bougie.
She's bougie. She's bougie.
Right?
She's not.
Yeah, so she's not used to it yet. Hachi's just kind of like, what? Right? Because she's from the East Bay, so she's like, what? I'm supposed to be scared of this? But Minnie's like, I've never had this before. I'm from the wine country. Yeah. You know? For context, this is Adam sort of sensing that his cat might be sensing something freaky happening around them. But it could be because you may have taken a photo of your cat in the dark, right? For
yeah, that's kind of basic biology. If you've had a pet cat, you've probably
seen this.
Noticed
and
this before.
For the science girlies out there, a cat's glowing eyes is caused by incoming light reflecting off of what's called the tapetum lucidum. The tapetum is a layer of reflective cells. Light bounces off of it and reflects back to the cat's retina, and this creates an appearance of glow, right? And then,
I was thinking, I thought it was that the cat was wearing sneakers. Was what I thought like the paranormal activity was.
He's wearing shoes. Right? And then slide 6 is when we get into physical photo evidence, just to cover the sort of spectrum of it all. Right, he's got Polaroids now, right?
Yeah, we got some Polaroids.
Because, he might be thinking these might seem a little bit more credible because they can't be easily edited the way that a phone photo can. So this might debunk a lot of like the editing that people claim. And we have, what you see here is 2 photos on top that have pictures of Adam's bedroom. And we have a faulty photo at the bottom compared to the 2 on top. And he's testing to just see ghosts, right? If you've seen a paranormal ghost show, you know that like they will do this thing where it's like, okay, let's take photos of the dark and see if something comes up, right? However, according to Polaroid, makers of Polaroid, Polaroids can come out entirely black because of 2 things. So I'm sorry, Adam. Shutter speed, aperture might not be working right. This means that the photo can be incorrectly exposed. So that might be the reason why that bottom photo happened. So,
Sure. Yeah.
Correctly expose your things. Use the correct flash. I know flash is a scary thing, but use it correctly, right? And then we have slide 7, which he's now doing a comparison of like, this is a digital photo and this is a Polaroid photo. On one photo, you'll kind of see that he takes a picture and he can see into the doorway. And then on the one on the right, he can't see in the doorway. This is something that I've encountered in real life, but not because I'm deeply haunted, but because I'm going to like personally debunk it as like a flash issue. For example, you can see that the lighting in this room is not exactly brilliant and perfectly done. You can see that the light and all the bright stuff in this photo is like in the doorway and it's farther back and it's a top light. And then the center of the door is on a bright yellow wall. And then there's a little black square that's the TV. The flash may have just caught onto the lighter parts of the photo and making this like whole thing like the flash to ambient lighting ratio being off. So you have the ambient light that's present in the room versus like this big flash of light, and it only catches like the white parts, the yellow kind of thing. So it's also once again potentially down to the exposure settings of the Polaroid and the digital camera itself. So I'm gonna say,
right.
It's explainable, right?
Explainable.
I'll tell everybody right now, like, listen, I love the ghosties. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes my brain is just like, come on now. There's yeah.
Yeah, so I see that there's a quote and it says, is it black each time with the Polaroid? Oh, was that your question?
He says,
why is it each time? So he's being able to replicate with the Polaroid that same phenomena that you're describing, which I think does imply that it's just a replicable phenomenon.
So that's when I was like, it's just your flash settings, dude. Relax. Well, I skipped that one because that was nothing. This one, I determined it was nothing. I hate you, Adam. Just kidding. No. Slide 9 is apparently cat evidence from the monitoring device that he. Yeah,
the cat on his hind leg
moment. The cat is apparently looking around for something creepy and crazy. Ben, has your cat ever stood on its hind legs? Any of your cats?
I cats do all kind of really weird shit all the time. Yeah, I don't even know.
Our cats have never done this aside from like if they're trying to get up for something, or Hachi likes to, if you're giving her food, she likes to do the meerkat thing on her hind legs, but she'll never done it on her own. For our audience, if your cat has ever done this, please send them to please send us the photos.
Love to see pictures of cats. Are always great. Always welcome.
We'll tell you what's going on in the photo. Okay, and then I mentioned in the next one, we're going to see the aforementioned child in a statue in Japan that has a slightly busted head. I think it could just be deformed because it's a statue. It's kind of like, what does it look like?
It's a statue. It looks like it's stone, right? Yeah, I think it.
And
yeah, I would need to see more because it looks like it's like a stylistic choice to me, more than just like a significant design thing of like the head in particular.
Yeah,
I need to see the full statue.
As a kid, most of the people.
It looks like a Princess Mononoke, like little forest spirit kind of.
What did I write? But yeah, most people in the replies were just telling him it's a coincidence, right? Coinkydink, like you have David on the mind. You're going to see David everywhere. What is it? Whatever. I wrote it somewhere. Most folks were like, it's just a coincidence, but some people were genuinely like freaked out that this kid is following him all the way to Japan.
Right, yeah.
And it's kind of crazy, right? They're like, oh, hell no. And then now, though, we're going to get into something a little bit crazier. Witness him.
The fucking people.
Do you see him?
Why is it so dirty? No, I don't see him. You need to clean your shit, Adam. You don't see him.
Okay.
Wipe down your door.
Once again, for the audio-based people, please head on over to Ice Cream Meme Pod for the script and the PowerPoint, or open up your Spotify thing, or get your booty on a Google. But I'll help you.
Yeah, you're missing out on dirty
I'll help
people.
You see him. Right? I'm trying to get up close for you. You still can't see him? Can you see him?
Please go closer to the 300 or 500% zoom that we have right now. I can't see anything.
Look again. Do you see it now? I've computer enhanced it for you.
No, I don't see it now. 200, yeah. Zoom in a little more, maybe.
This is the eye socket.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the eye socket.
The eye socket.
Don't argue with me. And this is the forehead.
Okay.
Do you see it now?
No, I don't see it now. I'm sorry for not yes-anding you, but I don't see the head. I can't believe you're not yes-anding
me right now.
This is not clear at all.
Ben!
I think that the image change made it worse. Whatever he decided to do with his color.
This is crazy. I can see it so well. I even was like, this is Photoshop.
So what is the head supposed to be doing?
Like deep close up into your peeping hole.
So it's like supposed to be like peeping in.
Yeah, right back at you.
At me.
Oh my god, this is his ear.
I don't see it. That's his ear. That's not an ear. Okay. We'll settle this on the pod. I'll meet you.
We'll settle this once we're done recording. But yeah. Anyway, people were able to see this. Okay. Ben, I need you to schedule an optometry appointment right now.
I have 20/20 vision, JD.
Glasses between the two of us, and I can see it. I have astigmatism, Ben.
Yeah, maybe it's the blurry eyes make it a little easier to recognize.
Okay, but now I'm hoping, my God, I computer enhance these things. Okay, for 14 through 15 is where it gets a little bit serious. And I will have to admit that while these are so damn serious, I was kind of cracking up. I'm so sorry, Adam. I was cracking up.
Adam's doing fine. We don't need to apologize to Adam.
This is the kid in the kitchen window.
Oh, you got a dark photo.
And we love to see it. I promise you, I computer enhance these things, but I'm giving them to you as they were given on twitter.com. Yes.
Is this one more visible?
To God, it looks more visible. Are you... could you see it right now? Lord heaven above.
I mean, if you... okay, maybe a little... This one is a little more. I see what could potentially be like a human form. Potentially. 14 stems from a photo that Adam took through the kitchen window. It's looking outwards at the roof, remember, the roof of another building. Adam believes that someone may have been standing on the roof and looking into his window straight at him. If you look at the photo, you can kind of see it, but if we computer enhance this shit. It's up to the corner, I'm sorry. That made it worse.
Right. It's right there, right? But then I computer enhance it a little bit more. You see it?
Yeah, I mean, I see the same thing that you're. Yeah, okay. This one is more like
that's the body in there, right? I was thinking it was like, you know, those things on the roofs of building, and it's like supposed to be a vent or something, and it's just like really like fixing on him, like
What about like one of those things that like scares
like
birds?
This could be like the top of the vent thingy, and there's like a circle far off on the distance, and for some reason at this angle that he's at, it really completes it. So I'm sorry, Adam, I don't believe in this. Okay.
I mean, it looks like maybe it's supposed to be a cyclops. I kind of see one eye in like the middle of like the head area.
If this was a child, a baby child, a little kid, why is it that big?
Yeah,
like you see a little kid.
Yeah. What's this? What is the scale here?
In a little bit.
Okay, I saw a bowl of cereal or something. Maybe there was a bowl of
like
dirt.
Plants,
it's dirt.
Plants,
okay,
right?
it's plants.
So that's got to be like a little bit of like a toddler situation. Okay, so I had to laugh at this one, but for these next one, I already was kind of like about this whole story just in general, because like in the beginning I was like, okay, maybe you could just have bad dreams, but this is when it gets a little too wonky for me. And instead of alleviating any hesitation that I had that this wasn't real, it just made me think more that it's not real. From this point, I think the story starts to lose its shine for me as like an interesting, fun story that's just like, oh, you're shitting around. Da, da, da. Now it's like, come on now. I'm not dumb. Like the sort of the thing might be like, Adam not necessarily believing his audience is dumb, but like maybe that they're like willing to pass off like things. Because remember, Adam is a content creator. Keep that in mind when you do things.
Yeah.
And similarly with like Andrew being like a content creator, he has like his whole like structure of skills and things that he does. Like bring a little bit of that skepticism into here. I started feeling that Adam's like earnestness turned into this thing that could genuinely be like duping people who are outright freaked out about this, but not in like the messed up way, but like in kind of like, let me lure this people in for audience wise. And so context for the next coming photos is that Adam was having a terrible dream. David was in his room again after some months of peace. In his dream, David was now approaching him, terrifyingly, crawling and heading to his bed. Dream Adam thinks, this is how I die. And to defend himself, or at least give people proof later if they find his dead body that he didn't die for any reason. So Adam does what any self-respecting person would do as they're about to die. He picks up his phone and starts taking pictures. And with that in mind,
naturally,
let's head on to the next slide. So these are not all of the photos that Adam took, because he says that like there were 350 photos that resulted. Oh wait, no, this is a different.
No, this is the JD edit.
No, oh my God, sorry, I jumped ahead. This is just the photos that he took when he was mid-sleep. Okay. Yeah.
When he was mid-sleep.
So get ready.
Okay.
Oh God.
Right. Hit me with it. No, more of your enhancement. You were ready for that one?
Do you see this without enhancement?
Yeah, I see this one without enhancement. It looks kind of like a doll or something. Yeah.
You see this though, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is him like mid sleep.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm about to fucking die in my dream. I just woke up. I'm about to get attacked by a kid. If we computer enhance it a little bit more.
I wouldn't be scared of a ghost toddler.
He's having the zoomies at night. So these are not all the photos that Adam took, but I was just like, whatever. And like you already mentioned it, but if you thought about that photo of the little teacup in the beginning, that's our boy David.
Yeah, that's our boy.
Like,
also, I feel like the initial drawing that we saw of David was definitely a little bit more fucked up looking than this. Like this just looks like a normal kid with a fucked up head.
Yeah,
like a slightly.
He's like wearing little stripes, and he's just a kid who's lost and all that stuff. Never mind the fact that the little girl in the dream was like busting him out, saying he's gonna fucking kill you, right? Then. Context for the next incoming stuff is basically Adam is like, shit is happening at night. So he gets an app camera thing that takes photos every 60 seconds. He places it high on a cabinet for great vantage point. And as a result of this, he got 350 photos where he just sees little boy David appear and disappear from this chair. Then stand over him, and then look at the camera, and then get hella close to the camera. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
That in mind.
I'm ready. Let's hit it.
Hit him up style. You see it? Let me zoom in some more.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Riverside. Okay. There's David. There's David again.
Yeah.
There's David slumped over in the chair.
Okay.
And there's David standing above him on his bed. And there's David's ear, apparently. I'm the
you're the ear recognition expert here, so.
And if we go to the next one to get him a little bit more highlighted, this is at this point where like I already was like, this is not real. This is like shopped, right? But when you get to this point on it, you can very clearly see the difference in the blurriness between the photo and then the David bodies. Like you could say that like, oh my God, ghosts would never appear on camera because of course they're going to have a plane difference. They exist on a different plane. But this is,
it's a little much. These images are just like, they're so like kind of clear that you're just like, okay,
especially
fuck off.
this
like,
one. Like out of context, this was a little freaky. This one is just like, hey.
Yeah, especially coming from Adam, who A, is a content creator, B, is a digital artist.
Bro,
yeah,
you're gonna draw and you're gonna tell me that you have evidence. First of all, I'd be sad.
What you doing drawing for if you got real stuff?
First of all,
that makes no sense.
I'll address that at a later date, but keep that in mind. So I'd like to say that at this point, when I first heard of the story, my sort of hesitance believing this whole thing became fully like, full blown, this is horseshit. And so you're basically seeing exactly like what Adam dropped onto the whole world, right? This is like middle of the 6 months. So he didn't drop this at the end. He didn't drop this in the beginning. He dropped this in the middle and then expecting us all to ride with it still towards the end. Yeah.
Let's keep going from here.
The reactions were mixed. And I just want to say this. I just want to be clear about this. I'm sorry. Okay. I won't believe it.
Okay.
But the results were mixed. Most of the responses, someone was like, this is pure crap, but I love it. But Sugar Babe, obviously, at the bottom says, maybe I'm crazy too. Ben, like you said, David kind of looks like a doll. What if David was a doll that has been possessed? Yeah. I mean, he actually looks like a doll. He was in a store when the accident happened. Which is apparently, I forgot to mention, David's head got busted in at the store. Yeah.
By an accident.
Okay. So, like, he actually looks like a doll. He was in the store when the accident happened. But why is there no evidence of that? IDK. And I think that if the magician TikTok debunker guy was around when this was popping, he would be like, y'all, think about it.
Yeah, Dustin Dean, mentalist. Man? Where you at?
Yeah.
Kind of the bat signal.
This next one that I'm going to come up into, Ben, if you want to laugh, go ahead.
Okay.
So he has a moment
When I caught my breath, I retrieved my phone from the dresser. The photo roll showed nothing of note, save for the last photo taken
for
just
context,
a moment before.
Yeah.
That's from Adam.
For context, he was having a nightmare, and he dreamed that David was on the ceiling, muttering to him. And then suddenly, David drops down on him.
Yeah.
And Adam wakes up terrified.
Train spotting Sal.
This is the photo. Please zoom in. This is the photo, Ben. He drops this on all of us and expects us to go, yes.
Yeah, this is, whoa, man, you really being haunted. That's scary.
And for those who are watching it, and also for Ben, computer enhanced. Computer enhanced. It's like these moments where I'm already like, this is dog shit. And then when I enhance it and I see like the difference in like pixelation and blurriness of it, I'm like, dog.
Yeah, right.
You work on BuzzFeed. Is this like a boy who cried wolf kind of moment when you're really being haunted, but everyone's like, you photoshopped this because the ghost is like, I know exactly who to target.
People will think that you're faking it, so I'll make myself look even shittier.
So basically, someone saved me because I literally was fucking cracking up at this point. I was crying. I was like, Adam,
come on, man. Hell yeah, at a certain point, it's like, it's a little too much. This is a hat on a hat for your ghost story.
Basically, David drops on him Mission Impossible style, and we're supposed to just fucking deal with it. I'm gonna stop sharing that because I got mad. Okay. So I am about to go to the story like the same way a Star Wars fan would go at something ferocious, dedicated, and later slightly obliterated by the fact that women and black and non-white people exist. This time, though, it's not about that. It's about the idea that stories require a whole lot of work, and overindulging your audience with cool and interesting shit is great for the moment, but is bad for you later if you are not an effective writer. Right? Where'd I go? Okay, this is not to say that Adam is a bad writer, no matter how much I've been dogging this whole thing. He's a comic artist and he's a webtoon maker, right? He has to know how to make a story. But maybe the scope of Dear David sort of like ran away from him, right?
Yeah, right. It's like a 6-month project of one narrative thing where he's kind of a short form artist.
Let's get into like storytelling, right? I'm finally into it. Finally. You're like, JD, Jesus Christ. Anyway, and all my research on what makes a good story, I've seen the following as common things to get right. Effective and good storytelling is subjective, right? Sometimes we all know when a story is good or not. Sometimes it's just obviously bad writing. The premise is shit. The plot is ass. Sometimes it's so full of holes that it might as well be marketed as Swiss cheese. But for the most part, the agreed upon ideas of what makes a good story are similar across the board. You have to have a storyline that makes some sense. Sure. There has to be some sort of drama, not the housewives kind of drama. Not everything is like dramatic kind of stuff, but maybe it's like something that shows a sort of want or struggle that your character will go through. Your characters have to feel grounded in some way, whether it be in their fantasy setting or in the regular old city in 20. They don't need to be relatable, but they should be compelling in some way, and they must be developed in such a way that helps move the story forward. Your story must have a sense of tone and voice that's like very unique or at least like understandable. And lastly, there must be a theme that can be understood by the readers, give them some sort of insight on themselves, the characters, or the world. And you should have a theme that connects the story together and brings it all home by the end. These are just a few of the makers of a good story that we're going to use today to analyze why Dear David sucked shit. No, okay. I do think, like, one, there's a great existing storyline in this, right? Adam's apartment is being haunted by a child and he wants answers. This is a compelling sort of like hook, even though like we know there's a lot of stories of like, I'm being haunted, check this out kind of thing. There's obviously like something in this that keeps people reading through like the thread and keeping their notifications on for Adam. The drama here is that Adam cannot seem to escape this haunting and is being followed in real life to dream life, from New York to Japan, and he just can't shake the feeling of dread that hits him every time he thinks about David. In terms of character, Adam is a real person, and I'm not going to analyze his character and all that stuff, but in this sort of like story setting or like experience, you see that he's driven and inquisitive. This helps move the story along as he investigates things, reaches out to people for help, and continues to document the whole story and experience of this whole hunt, right? the tone and voice of the story is based on Adam's own. It's autobiographical, so it's good because you can feel the genuine anxiety and like panic about everything that's going on. And the combination of all these things make a neat little story. But now I gotta pull up my bucket of haterade and bust a couple of bubbles or two. So now, while I do enjoy, I'm so sorry. This one's titled "What Makes It a Dog Shit Story." I was mad.
Oh, it's true. There's no need to soften the blow here.
Like, I will say, like, I do like and enjoy Adam's like general art style, like his like spooky horror, like webcomic stuff. It's like really interesting, right? And I'm not like the best drawer, but you know, I love what he's doing, and it isn't his fault. But my opinion is the monster introduction was way too early, and because of Adam's art style, it doesn't look scary at all, right? And if you go back to like the initial drawing of David that comes out like maybe like 4 tweets into this whole saga, it's not like Junji Ito scary. It isn't like fucked up scary. It is like a doodle of like a little busted little child head.
Yeah, he's got a very cartoonish style that doesn't really lend to
like
spooks.
In a sense that if we saw this in the real world, like as just like a existing image on the internet, you and I would be sending this photo back and forth like a grimace ass cheek spread meme. We'd be like, Ben, remember this photo? Like that kind of thing. Like, in my opinion, my humble onion, David's intro was way too early, and it felt way too prepared as like a character. It felt way too written in. Yeah.
Felt pretty explicit too. Like, especially when you get to the
we immediately
stuff.
In the first part of the thread get who, what, and where so quickly in the first thread of the saga. Like within like 6 tweets, we get it, right? It would have been nice for David to come out in the exploration period of this whole thing where he just experiences the haunting, sees things at the corner of his eye, and all of a sudden like we have David, then he can introduce David there. But like my suggestion is like it could have came like after we first see him at the peephole, right? Because that's like just a little hint of what he is, and then all of a sudden when we open it up to like certain thing, it's David, right? When we have this idea already, like getting into the story of what this kid looks like, which is just like a grumpy ass child with a dent on its head, and we sort of already see the creature of it all. In my opinion, we lose so much of like the creep factor of Dear David with the early introduction of what this kid looked like and what his intention is, right? Additionally, while I love evidence and support for claims on this here show, what I will say is about the internet is that we have the ability to save the file of an image, scrutinize it down to the bone, and all that stuff. Like that's what we were doing just like minutes ago, right? The kitchen, the kitchen window really I showed you when I was blowing it up and changing the colors, brightening it, and all that stuff. It was still a little bit convincing for someone who's not really looking to debunk all this stuff. It felt very much in the world instead of photoshopped in. It felt like it was just really in there. Or that we matrixed it so hard because we're expecting to see a creature already. So with Adam being like hyper aware and extra fearful, you can like argue that it might have been just a weirdly shaped, like I've Googled what the vent is called, which is like a roof turbine vent, the little circle shaped thing. And maybe there happened to be like a circle in the distance that made it look and come together to look like a small boy. So the peephole photo for me just really hemmed it up. That's the one where you couldn't tell at all. But I was like, it's right here, right? It may have been like, if it was like a genuine real thing, it was like almost someone he knew could have like pranked him, knew that he was going through this because he is posting this out on Twitter. Someone he knows could be like a shithead or just like a funny prank guy. It's a prank, bro, kind of thing. Or it was just like layers of Photoshop. Like you have this idea of like David as this funky, fucked up head child. And then all of a sudden, when you look at the picture, when I send you the picture, man, it's like the creature is smooth. It looks like a doll, and it's just not mixing in with our like idea of David that he's established. There's no head dent on the thing too. So additionally, the rest of the photos, I can imagine once you've seen me blow them up, if you're looking at it through the script, they look a lot faker than their dim and blurry counterparts. So it's like it's in the nature of like busting it all down. You love the idea and proof of it all, but you also want to be a little skeptical, because when you get the real thing, this is when you can say like, see, I knew the others were wrong, but this one is realer than anything else, right? So it kind of sucks that there's so much evidence, because that's what you want, like as like a paranormal person, right? Evidence, evidence, evidence. But when it gets down and it investigated, it's like, it's not, right?
Yeah, I think it's like when there's too much of it, it makes it seem less convincing with like the paranormal shit, where it's like, well, why has nobody else ever got like images of a ghost like this, and then you've managed to catch like 300.
And I didn't mention it at all because it's I hated them, but there's like audio that he gets, because he gets like a sleep recording app, like, you know, those ones where like the sleep talking people or the snoring thing, and he hears like
when you're sleeping
noises and all that stuff, and like moving around. And I'm thinking, like, you have cats, do you not? It's probably just cats moving around. Outside of like the images themselves, we discussed the tropes that appear in Dear David that make it interesting, but now I'm going to go through like the parts that make it both interesting and like an absolute mess, which is the main thing that I'm going to touch on here is the writer cop-out. Specifically for us, we're going to discuss the aborted arc, and the most important part of it all, the no ending. Now, Ben, while I was looking into this section of the story, I found something that will probably interest you, which is called the Shaggy Dog story arc. When it comes to the writer cop-out trope, based on the fact that you've got that dog in you, what do you think the Shaggy Dog story is?
I don't know. Is it like a child finds a magical ring, or a man is bitten by a magical dog and is turned into a dog, and then they have to teach him learn a moral lesson to remove the curse from themselves, and then
that's what I thought it was.
Is that it?
But I hadn't had the in-depth knowledge of Shaggy Dog that you had, so this might be like, once I say the answer, you'll be like, oh shit, yeah. According to TV tropes, a Shaggy Dog story is a plot with a high level of buildup and complicating action, only to be resolved in an anticlimax or ironic reversal, usually one that makes the entire story meaningless. So I think the example was like, they get like the missing Shaggy Dog thing, and they return all the way to Italy and return the Shaggy Dog to the person. They go through like a whole bunch of shit to return the Shaggy Dog to someone. When the person opens the door and they're like, that's not even the right dog. So they went through all of that shit just for, so that's the Shaggy Dog story arc. So just for you when you next cover another Shaggy Dog based SCP.
We love those. Those are great.
Getting back to Dear David, when it comes to Dear David, we get this whole like 6 months or so of build up, craziness, climax, and only, for in my opinion, for all of the shit to be just full of red herrings, aborted ideas, and cop out for not having an ending at all. Adam introduces a couple of red herring stuff type that like result in a bunch of like aborted arcs in this whole thing, such as one, the warehouse. It's introduced as an external location that could have been relevant to David's story, but was just instead abandoned as an idea and never mentioned again. Right? Then we have the ceiling and attic issue. It's introduced through all the rumbling and crashing around, and it results in like a dented marble and shoe. And it could have been like a potential explanation for David. Maybe they belonged to him and they ended up there, or David passed away up there and his stuff was left up there. And like, he's with Adam now to like tell him all about it. But it just becomes another red herring for you to like now gnaw at, or because you somehow have zero taste and you don't like Swedish fish. Because like, bringing it back to like a MacGuffin like plot point, like I guess it needed to like exist to like push the whole thing forward, but it wasn't at all relevant to this whole thing. Yeah. So then we have to mention the good old Native American trading post. Because when he mentions, because he really, really points it out in like one tweet that like, oh yeah, everyone see the turtle shell that just fell over? I got it at a Native American trading post. So after watching Trending Fear, which is the show that he has on Discovery Channel, I know that this man could fucking benefit from reading a goddamn book.
Adam Ellis has a
Trending Fear, which is what
show.
I'm saying. We need to do something, Ben. If Adam Ellis can get a fucking TV show with all this fucking shit.
If he can get one. Come on.
I know you put in a book in our like recommended media guys, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend it to Adam if he ever decides to get shit on by me, which is All of the Real Indians Died Off, that one that you mentioned in the thingy. And then because like Adam needs to examine a little bit both in the show Treading Fear and in this story, why to him Native American object equates haunting for him and his research crew, who are like so quick to always jump and believe everything that's going on, despite like some of it being obviously fake.
Right.
But I think the most important thing that was just promptly shat on was the rules provided by the young girl in the beginning. You can ask him 2 questions. You start with Dear David and never ask a third, or he'll kill you. Unless right. It wasn't abandoned, because he did ask the third question.
There's a caveat.
So now this is David trying to kill him. Right? Unsuccessfully, right?
Unsuccessfully for 6 months. And I guess 8 years at this point.
So like
7-8 years.
The rest of this whole process was just, maybe if he didn't abandon it and this was just David trying to kill him, it was done fine, but it wasn't utilized well enough for its like uniqueness, right? We don't get a we just get a little girl introduced. Like, we don't get a who for this girl or for David, and we don't get a why for the rules. We just know that he has these rules to abide by. You're just like, why? Right?
Yeah, it doesn't really relate to like the mysterious accident dented head thing. Like, he was like, my riddle's 3. You can only ask me these. And it's like, why is that a factor?
He introduces that whole thing, immediately fucks up and never talks about it ever again. Like, the theme, there's no like sub connection to the theme from the subplot of like, he only answers 3 things. He only appears at midnight is the important part, but then looks like David appears at like 2 to 3 a.m. Is it because he's now outside of the rules because you fucked up the rules? Adam.
Yeah, you just realized the rules kind of sucked, and you were like,
which then leads us to the absolute crime that was committed with this whole thing, which was that it just ended abruptly. I am now going to read I'm going to show you now once again. Stop. Don't click leave. Bro, don't click leave. Careful, JD.
Careful, JD.
So he has these whole things where he's like cryptically sending out, everything is fine, everything is space, fine, and then, please don't worry about me, I'm okay, and everything will be like it was before. And then just says this: for everyone asking if I'm alive, I'm doing okay. It's been pretty quiet around here lately, and I've been trying to focus on work. Of course, I'll keep you updated if anything strange happens, but for now, I'm staying busy with drawing and other projects. Other projects such as the Dear David saga getting a movie.
Oh.
Everything came down in March 2018 after posts regarding Dear David sort of dried out and became just sort of like cryptic moments of like odd photos that have been warped. He puts out, he or David, if David possessed him, like tweeted tweeted videos of his cat from like the POV of like a worm holding an iPhone for the first time. And like, it's just like, for a minute, you get a glimpse at a potential haunting gone wrong. Now Adam's like fucked up himself. But no, you don't get further than that. What you get instead is like Adam's abrupt end to the whole thing. And this leaves us this leaves us to wonder if Adam Ellis just made a story so crazy that in the end, upon investigating his plot points, characters, and scary elements, he realized that he has no way to cleanly wrap this up, or at least wrap it up in a way that will sort of make sense and appease people. Because in stories, you don't want it to be like beautifully wrapped up in a way that's like, this felt like Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, right? Where like someone obviously stepped in and was like, actually, Dear David's rules were this and that. You want some mystery, but also some answers, right? Because like, fair enough, I guess stories are crazy. If this was a lie, if this was a prank, if this was a joke, if this was a bit, Adam hypothetically would have had a spreadsheet, a bunch of folders or whatever to keep track of all this shit.
Yeah, right.
I know we had a conversation about like favorite boba order, like in like the previous episode, but I don't even remember what that was. Like the tiniest thing I can't remember, but for Adam to have this whole like sketch done, like whatever.
Like, intricate thing. Yeah.
Let me be nice for 1 second. Is that if this was all real though, maybe there's no way to wrap up a real life event like this very neatly. Obviously, because Adam is alive, can't be like, well, I just moved out of the house. He's not there anymore. When obviously,
especially if you build the stakes in that David is going to kill somebody who asked 3 questions, and then you don't deliver on the end of that, which would be your death.
So it's like, maybe if this was real, maybe this is the wrap up. Nothing happened. David fucked up kind of thing. Life goes on. Like in real life, life goes on and it leaves parts of you behind. And part of you behind happens to be a Twitter thread that you start. Stop. What is this? Alarm. Right. It's just like it was abruptly ended. Felt just terrible. As I wrap up, what is something that a story writer and teller can learn from this? The 3 takeaways I have from this is 1, figure out what makes your story compelling and write it like a surfboard. This may have been a thread on a whim that was never meant to go anywhere. Just like what we mentioned with like Andrew's like prank of like, he's just sticking around with his friends, but this one went crazy, right? If it was never meant to go anywhere, but now it's going, take it for a spin for a couple of times, prepare yourself for how it can go wrong, how it can go right. Stories are complex, especially as they grow and grow. You have more things to keep track of and worry about. You have more subplots, characters, objects, whatever. The inability to connect things back to your plot or your theme can ruin the story because it makes it look jumbled and like a first draft of some sort. The second is figure out how to effectively introduce and develop your characters, especially if the character is a big bad creature or monster. The lack in thought and preparedness for the introduction can make it all fall apart and become ineffective for your audience, making it much less of a scary story and less meaningful. Maybe it doesn't have to look scary, but it just acts scary and has scary intentions. Maybe David was meant to look nice, but was terrible. Maybe he has scary intentions, but it doesn't look scary kind of thing. And then what drives your creature and what makes it something to fear? We know what makes David something to fear is that if you fuck up, he'll kill you. But what drives him? There's no sense of drive, right? And the third thing to take away is that this is not for real life, but this is for the abnormal, paranormal side of things. How much evidence is too much evidence? How does your evidence work in your findings favor, and when does it become a joke? When does your found footage or wonderfully crafted Photoshop material become like an ancient aliens joke, right? In what ways did Adam fail, and how can you succeed? How can we succeed, or at least do better or avoid what he did? There's so much to learn from these 3 things that I noticed mostly that could have helped Adam and can help you and I for like our future works as writers for like this show, like in general, but also as readers and consumers, right? Dear David in general is a compelling story with an interesting cast of characters. Its drama, its anxiety was very nice to read and like absorb. Adam is wonderful with his pace and keeps his readers on hook. And I do definitely recommend reading it or going through it. It falls apart though due to its dramatics at times and leads people more into the land of make-believe than reality, which hurts the story more than just a little bit. Dear David was good, but it could have been great. And we just now have to wonder if it ended abruptly because it just stopped, or it ended abruptly because he needed to save it all for the Dear David movie that was in talks in 2020. So we might just have to see in the Dear David movie if this was all fixed or if this is exactly just how it is.
Yeah, it's an interesting era because I feel like 2016, 2017 was when like a lot of Twitter funny people were starting to get like comedy writing jobs and jobs like, you know, writing for late night or just like kind of sitcoms or just breaking into like it seemed like the like Hollywood was kind of looking to Twitter as like a source of writers. And so I think that's an interesting like little snapshot in time to see that. I think Adam was kind of trying to capitalize on that, right? And it seemed like successfully did if there was at least talks of getting a movie made. And I'm sure that coincidentally is when it would stop, right? I think that this illustrates, I think also the Andrew, I think that the root line here is that like real life, like we, you know, as humans, we're like addicted to stories. They're like so central to identity and who we are and how we understand the world. But that reality is not a story in the same, like our lives are not just stories. We do not follow arcs. We do not have set, you know, it's not the same thing. And so I think that we can see that with like the Andrew thing where you don't get the payoff that you want in your conspiracy story. And then Adam's thing where it's like, well, you don't get the payoff that you would expect from a haunted child breaking the rules story where it's like, well, you broke the rules and now you have to die because you've and it'll be a long drawn out movie of being tormented by this creature, but there's like one way it can end narratively but then it's real life, and probably this is mostly if not all bullshit. So it's like, well, I just have to end it. Like, I can't. You literally wrote yourself into a corner. But it's like that blending of like narrative and reality that I think social media really kind of spreads and makes happen. That I think was what we're seeing in both of these stories.
It's very interesting how they did come together. Like, once again, synchronicity. Let's go. Our stories, they always be connecting. This is why we have this podcast kind of
brain to brain, right there.
The idea of like, let's bring in that whole thing with Andrew, where like, okay, maybe he did have this dream of this child who like attacked him and was haunting him. Like, it could have been just a perfectly regular haunting story, but maybe it got popping hard enough that it culminated into this thing. He's like, well, I can't leave everybody hanging because now I have people watching me, people following me specifically because I am getting haunted. They might have not known me from my comics on BuzzFeed, but because he now also has like scary, like paranormal comics that he has on like the most recent I probably looked at his like Instagram like probably like 3 nights ago. He had posted like a sort of like haunting like scary themed comic. So now it's like maybe what if this was like a way to like drive up an audience for like the paranormal side of it all, right?
And if he does have that show on Discovery Plus, and he has made this another part of his like online brand persona
on 2019 and then still moving forward. So that could have been like as a result of like this whole thing, because he does say that like in something I was haunted and now I work my way to getting DMs from people and helping to like solve their problem kind of. So it's like like you mentioned with the whole like the writers thing, like a lot of like people who were like the finding out that a lot of the people on Vine that were like funny, super funny, were all like actually friends who went to like UCB together, and like a lot of people who were like on BuzzFeed and now have like very successful TV shows, like Quinta Brunson and rightfully has like a really amazing show out there at Abbott Elementary, and has several people who were writers with her on BuzzFeed on that show because like they're friends and they genuinely are brilliant writers as well. Because it's like, maybe this is your like little stop to the next kind of thing. Like we have our friends / competitors, Ryan and Shane, who were of BuzzFeed fame, who got to do their own thing now. And Ryan was in like, I guess, a Marvel movie, Ant-Man, right? That kind of thing is like is it now that like, if we step outside of like the scary paranormal space, is like virality and this kind of thing with like the sort of like embellishment kind of thing, is like, is that a cool new way to be to get into something, to be famous for something? Like, how do you do it right in a way that it just doesn't result in like 15 minutes, an hour of fame, and instead it results in a long sort of career in the thing that you want?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, you have to capitalize. There is like you need to capitalize on when you're getting the heat, right? Like if you're like, I'm getting attention for this paranormal thread I'm doing, so I'm going to continue to lean into that. And I think that it works like that. To say, the right or wrong is kind of, I think, beside the point when it comes to like internet clout, right? Like it's not a negative or positive attention that really matters to a lot of people. It's just attention. It's like you can hate me all you want, but if you're watching my videos, that's all I care about. It doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like me. Honestly, if you are hate watching me, great. You're as loyal, maybe you're just as loyal as somebody who like loves.
You do have people who hate follow, who hate consume, who hate watch certain things. And one thing I've recently noticed on like Twitter is that like people who have this sort of like trolling background kind of thing, their bios will be like something along the lines of like, I know you're just looking through my profile because I said something that triggered you and you're looking for additional evidence to roast me on. Ha ha ha. I don't care about this because that was already my intent. So like, oh no, it's just like the nature of creating and the difficulties of it when it's tied into modern real life consequences on, because we can make up a cryptid right now, have it pop off, but it's never going to affect us because we're not embroiled in this cryptid is actually me turning into a thing at night. It is a creature that's existing outside of ourselves. Whereas Andrew embroils himself in this whole thing because the CIA is following him. They're telling him to stop doing these things. And Adam is like going to get killed by David.
And Adam gets into the thing where he has to continue to escalate, right? Like he's always like, well, okay, I had this blurry image. Now I have to have like a better image and then like a better image of that. And then like it has to be more clear. And if I'm going to keep people's attention, it's just, you have to keep escalating in the kind of story. The same thing that Andrew did.
You could see this for like someone who is a little bit more into like the pranking section of it, who's willing to go a little bit farther than Adam would have been. Maybe like, hey guys, was just in a hospital, fell from the stairs, kind of where it's like, oh, this is probably David making an attempt and he didn't succeed. So maybe he stops now, or maybe it escalates from there and kind of So I think the takeaway is that when you and I decide to make our paranormal grift, we need to have a safe amount of distance from the grift itself. Like, and we'll set up like a fake account or something. Sort of like, oh, is this? I don't want to give a sneak peek. Like, we need to make it like Slenderman-ish type where we just made it and now we set it out. Like, it's not. I don't have to pretend that I'm cursed or seen.
You don't want to tie yourself into the narrative.
And one of the other things that I noticed is that like Andrew's like whole thing, it has ties to the outdoors, and people can have access to the outdoors. They can verify, debunk certain things, right? Like the giant, people were finding that it's just like a thing. And I had thought back to like the warehouse aspect of the thing. And like maybe he abandoned it because he recognized that like maybe because he has a couple followers, someone might be like, oh, I used to work there. That's not what's happening there. It used to be an active store, but now it's debunked because we went bankrupt. Nothing impossible. So like maybe he pulled out from that story because he realizes that like, he lives in New York. He has followers. He's a BuzzFeed fame. Someone will be able to like walk around and be like, oh no, I used to work there. And this is why that's happening. So like maybe that's.
Or they'll be like, there's no warehouse on that street.
What bodega are you talking about?
Like, what are you talking about?
So that's when I was like for us, like if we're doing these kinds of things, it has to be like not. It has to have like some sort of like blank connection to like an external force. That
show I think it's like show don't tell and less is more. Like you need to be able to be like we don't know where this is. It could be anywhere. Like I think that's like maybe like a backrooms thing would be a good way to go with that, because it's impossible to prove or disprove. If we think about like the most famous like paranormal video like evidence kinds of things, like the Bigfoot walking evidence, like people can go there, but there's like a varying thing about like the tide, like, oh, it doesn't look that way now. It's because it's been 70 years. Oh, it's because it's been high tide this day. So you can't like thing kind of like it's fake, kind of thing. So it's like, how well is it tied to the real world in a way that people can easily debunk it or say something about it kind of thing. So, oh my God, we're just doing tips on like how to fake people out. Kind of paranormally grift people.
Maybe that we go viral because we teach people how to grift. Like that's our seminar. So everybody pay $100 to help you grift everything.
Just one low fee.
One time.
For one time.
$100.
One time.
Hell yeah.
Ben and JD speaker series.
That's, I don't know. What we take away from here.
Rich ghost, poor ghost.
As the creators of Ice Cream Mimi podcast, but also as like people in general.
This episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please head to the website in the description below. If you'd like to reach out with a comment, suggestion, or share an experience with one of our topics today, send us a message at icecreamumeme@gmail.com. All of the music for the podcast is provided by Yager Frank. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.